George Bush's son and George W. Bush's brother. And what might his part have been in helping in this Wall Street fiasco, along with his brother? Seems like they were in cahoots to me, I'm just saying.
I'm going to let Reverend Dyson answer that. Hold on a second.
It's funny that you would say that because there is a silencing of the Bushes, and I write for Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt's New Deal economy site and looking at the past administration, this administration, and the outlook, but I haven't heard a word about the Bush. But now since you said that, I'm going to go and find out where that Bush is. I'm going to be the Bush.
And the thing is that, you know, the financial misery that all of us, poor white people, working class white people, people of color and all of that we're enduring, certainly has been at the hands of people, again, who have not always had the best interests of any of us in mind or in heart. So my brother, what's your name, my brother? Keith. Brother Keith's point about civil service exams and affirmative action, his honest take on what he perceives every day, just his common experience. When you juxtapose that to some of the stuff we done seen that has gone on, when we look at our common sense, when we would conclude based upon what we see, America doesn't treat us as citizens, right? Some Confederate folk who followed the Confederate flag, who wanted to secede from the nation, take away from it, just didn't want to be part of it, right? Are seen as American heroes. This is our tradition. This is what we keep alive. Whereas people of color who died for this nation on foreign soil and came back here to not enjoy the benefits. This is what we're talking about, Brother Keith, in terms of the history. You said that was then, this is now. But if your mama had a disease, she could pass it on to her children. If your dad, that's why when you go to the physician, they say, what's your history? Right? Because if you got cancer in your family, you might tend to have cancer in your family. If you had heart disease, you got to be careful with your cholesterol. So what we talk about when we talk about history, we're talking about what the predispositions are in a particular tree. Now, it's not to say, you know, because I'm sure that there are white men who work hard for what they got. Go, look, ain't nobody gave me nothing. I'm out here hustling. I'm out here doing my thing hard. Ain't nobody gave me crap, right? And they're right. And then they say, well, when it comes to white privilege, why are you speaking about me? Look at the president of the NAACP. Well, let me answer it this way. You could be a poor white person. You could be a working class white person. If you walk down the street and are stopped by a police person and reach for your wallet, and the police person, because of race, doesn't assume that that wallet is a gun, you might live to be able to reach into your pocket, extract your wallet, and show your ID. If you're a person of color, reaching for your wallet makes him nervous. He thinks you're reaching for your gun, Amadou Diallo, and many other brothers and sisters who've dealt with this over the years. Now, what's my point? Even if you're a poor white person, that's a form of privilege that even a rich black person may not have. I know you want to come back at me, but let me put it out there first. So that the rich black person doesn't even have the privileges a poor white person has in terms of relating to the police. Skip Gates ain't a poor black person. Skip Gates in his own crib. And had that been Henry Kissinger and a black policeman who wrote him in his crib, he might have got fired, right? He might have got fired. So my point is, white privilege doesn't just work because you're rich. I think that rich white people have manipulated the political system to such a degree that even working class white people don't understand. They got more in common with black people than they have in common with white people. So we got to figure out a way to talk about that. What, you want to respond? Respond.
Yeah. Don't you think this is a learned behavior that maybe he's had this happen before, where probability-wise, the more violent offender would tend to be? I mean, look at violence in America. Most violence is black people on black people. Why are you doing this?
Most violence is black people on white people. No, there are many more white people in this country, as you know, than black people. The majority of white people are assaulted by other white people. People die or assaulted in their own community. If you want integrated crime, you have to have integrated communities. We are living in a radically segregated society. So first of all, statistically speaking, the vast majority of white people have nothing to worry about except other white people. Number two, look what the point you just made. Let's deal with that. The self-reporting in polls of most white people, the most drugs are consumed by white Americans. Drugs, I'm talking about illegal drugs. I'm talking about legal drugs. I'm talking about illegal drugs. But they're not checked. Let's go to your point. The experience. So you're saying then, based upon the polls of self-reporting, as they said it themselves, when we do a study of white America, most of the drugs are consumed by them. Why aren't they then in jail? Why aren't they arrested? Because the cops don't assume that the white people have the drugs, so they don't stop them. There are many more white men and women who have drugs in their cars who, if they were pulled over with a search and seizure, would be put into jail if the police people, once having found the drugs, would put them in jail, than black or Latino people. But because black and Latino people operating these policemen do, out of the assumption that black and Latino people have a disproportionate inclination to commit the crime, are the ones arrested. If you want more equal numbers of people in prison, then the cops and other arresting authorities have to begin to pay attention to the offending white brothers and sisters who do the drugs. And I'm saying if that's the case, it's not simply the case that these people have had experience. I'm not denying the legitimacy of white cops who've had tough experiences in black communities, because black people do as well who are cops. Here's the problem though, is that when cops are called in many of these black and Latino communities, the cops end up treating the people who call the cops like they're the criminals, as well as the people who are the criminals themselves. Let me give you my example. I ain't talking about nobody else. I was stopped by a white policeman, 4 of them, in Detroit, for riding my own car. We went to pull out our registration to show them, license versus registration. The cop said, look, we didn't steal the car. Our car was reported so like this. I appreciate you stopping, but it's ours. I ain't mad at him for stopping me. That's his job. But then when I go to show you my license, and you pull a gun on me and say, nigga, I will shoot you in your head, and then beat my brother and my friend down to the ground, I'm saying you're mistaking the criminal for the law-abiding citizen. And most people of color are law-abiding citizens, but police people end up not making judgments. Thirdly, let me tell you this. If a disproportionate number of white men were somehow accosted, stopped, and shot, like, we wouldn't be taking this as, you know what, you shouldn't be in the wrong place, you shouldn't have been doing that. We would have an argument in this country about why the cops are wrong to be killing that many white men. We accept as normal practice that these black men, look at the man who was about to get married the next day, getting caught up. Look at Amadou Diallo, look at Abner Louim. We could go on and on and on and on. Now we're not making the argument that all black people who have been accosted by cops are not liable legally or shouldn't deserve to be put in jail. But many more white brothers and sisters deserve to be put in jail who are not in jail and don't go to jail because the cops don't racially profile them. The problem with racial profiling is that it misses entire populations of people who commit the same crime that those other people of color are targeted for, but never are held accountable for it. And then, when you look at the brother was mentioned in the United Nations, look at Amnesty International, made a report about 10 years ago, said this, the following. White kids are hit on the back of their hands. Johnny, don't do that anymore. Jill, don't do that anymore. For the same problems that black and Latino kids, and this is an international report, this ain't no prejudice within America, NAACP, Urban League, this is an Amnesty International report, said that the same crimes or problems, offenses, that juveniles are arrested for who are black and Latino, put into the juvenile justice system, which you know means they get tracked. So now they get segregated from the larger population. They're fed into these jail systems because now they're marked and targeted. The same crime that gets them put into a life of being targeted by the justice system gets white kids with a hit on the back of their hands and told not to do that. And then they go on to be governors and lawyers and doctors and whatever they can be. Whereas those black people and Latino people are targeted. Again, when I'm talking about individual, this is what the professor meant when he said systemic. If you have a mindset that says that black people tend to do these things, you're going to believe it. And let me give you something else that's even deeper. Let me give an example from and then we'll let Professor Paulo jump in. Let me give an example from Bishop Tutu, you know, the South African man who won the Nobel Prize. Remember, they had apartheid in South Africa. He said he was on a plane right after apartheid ended, so that now they could have black pilots. He's very proud. He writes, right? He says, but when that plane took off and they had some turkeys, he said the first thing that popped in his mind